small wonder, lovely and bright and soft curves. She's a small wonder, a child unlike other girls. She's a miracle, and I grant you, she'll enchant you at first sight. She's a small wonder, and she'll make your heart take flight. La, 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 la.
Well, welcome to our new show.
Wow.
Where, what? I know it's already fucked up, huh? Where we talk about sitcoms. And I am joined not only by Rusty this time, but by Poe, who will be with us on this journey.
Wow. I'm so excited.
And today's episode is the Small Wonder episode, Woodward and Bernstein. Isn't this episode demented?
Horrible.
Yes. Well, I picked this episode.
Yes.
Well, it needs to be talked about.
Yeah. This is so Small Wonder, just to give a little background on this show. If you're people of our age, all basically in the same age range, although Rusty is the oldest, you'll remember the show Small Wonder, which was about a little girl robot who lived with a family. Her name was Vicky, which stood for Voice Input Child Identicant.
Identicant, yeah.
And she lived with this family, and it was basically like an ALF situation where you can never find out that this robot lived with this family.
But yet every single thing she does is so weirdly robotic.
And she's always wearing the same dress. That just seems like, why couldn't they put her in a different outfit?
I think they explained that. I think there's a reason why she always wears the same like pinafore dress, but I don't know. I don't remember enough about Small Wonder.
Okay, I'll have to listen to a podcast about Small Wonder. Find out.
I actually think that my ex-boyfriend went on a date with her.
Really?
Yeah.
Tiffany Brissett?
Yeah, an old boyfriend of mine.
This is already
And
juicier than I thought.
Also dated the daughter from Grounded for Life, and I was like, they're all like kind of the same girl.
Yeah. Wait, the Grounded for Life girl, was she the redhead girl?
Yeah.
She's kind of more like Harriet, though.
Well, and I know someone who hooked up with Harriet from New York.
Really?
And he was a ginger too.
You have a lot of connections to Small Wonder.
Dude, we Poe already delivering. So, did you know that this was one of the earliest half-hour shows to originate in syndication?
Oh.
On September 7th, 1985.
Wow.
It was created by Howard Leeds. Russ, I don't know if you did your research on this guy, but he also co-created Silver Spoons. He worked on Different Strokes, and he died tragically at the age of 97 after spending he left television to try to bring Satan back to life as one of the Rosemary's Baby cult members. He also created the 1960s series My Living Doll, which featured a pre-Catwoman, Julie Newmar. Can you tell I'm reading?
You're just reading this off of Wikipedia.
Trying to blend in with society.
This guy has a real doll fetish.
I was going to say, he definitely ended his life just coming into a real doll.
Okay, well, let's explain this horrific episode.
But I've got one more thing to say about.
God, he has so many notes.
Do you know that there was 96 episodes of this show?
Yeah.
So what?
I have one. I have one more thing that I really want to say. The writers were frustrated with this experience because this is a very low budget show, and one script featured 8 pages of conversation, prompting one of the writers to say, "Are we working on a sitcom or an oil painting?"
Wow.
Now, Poe, you're Brazilian. Did you know that?
What a segue.
I have to introduce.
That was not even edited like that.
I have to
natural segue.
I have to build your character. The Brazilian title of this was called Super Vicky.
Really? Wow. Okay. Just
And,
add a super on it.
And the parents of the child actors did not get along.
No.
Oh,
They were all stage moms.
really?
Yeah.
But clearly, you would say Vicky was the biggest star, right?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And she was paid the least.
Well, less than the parents.
What else is new?
Gotta hope that she's. I gotta hope that she's better than Jamie pay wise.
God, he's so horrible. I hate him.
All right, so the episode in question, Small Wonder, Woodward and Bernstein. We'll just go through this episode and recreate it for you, but you're not going to believe this plot and the way it is delivered is so weird.
Well, I think at this time in the 80s, there was a lot of sitcoms touching on very serious issues.
Exactly.
Right.
Like locking yourself in a refrigerator.
Yeah, or molestation by a bike shop owner.
I'm only 11 years old. Should I be hearing all of this?
Absolutely, Arnold. If more kids knew the facts, less of these things would happen. Unfortunately, child molesters prey on the innocence of children.
But Small Wonder wanted to capitalize on that, and they picked kidnapping or child abduction. And they didn't really know how to approach it.
I've actually got some notes how they could have made it work better, but we're going to get to this.
Amazing.
So the episode opens, and the dad, who is a genius scientist, has, I believe, swapped out household duties with the mom.
Does
Yeah,
he
because
have a
she's
real
become a
job?
teacher.
Yeah.
Now,
So
He works at a
actually does go-
lab, I
Okay,
think.
all right.
why would he need to do any of these domestic chores when they have the robot that already does them?
Oh,
They didn't want.
point.
That is a great point. Especially since we see the robot can move in super speed and obviously has super strength.
Yeah,
Yeah.
was really the whole point of him cooking just so he can make the cake at the end? Like,
I don't know if that
it
was-
seemed like,
I think it was just for a couple of jokes, like the chicken joke.
right,
Guys,
and-
let's
and
not get
having a
ahead of
man in an
ourselves.
frilly
Yeah.
apron.
That is the whole B story, which
Yeah.
begins with him making
Okay.
oatmeal for breakfast.
How offended were you by him attempting to make oatmeal? Because it's pretty easy to make.
Yeah, I didn't even understand what that process was. That he
Straightening the lumps out.
and they make a joke about cafeteria food.
Right.
Uh, did you bring or did you buy cafeteria food?
I loved cafeteria food. I'm
Oh.
going on record saying it. I
Our
loved it.
our cafeteria was horrible,
Oh.
but nonetheless, I bought every day from first grade until the end.
Oh,
Really?
Never
You never
never-
brought?
never brought a
Yeah.
lunch.
Rusty, did you bring?
I did both. I mixed it up depending on the food because I think you got a menu or a schedule of what the food was going to be. So, like pizza day, like the Ilio's pizza slice, you always got that.
It was
Yeah.
like Ilio's pizza that had been buried in like a pet cemetery.
Yeah, I didn't like the pizza.
You know,
Um,
now cafeteria food is like gourmet food. They have like sushi and stuff. It's crazy.
Kids these days.
I
And
know.
Rusty, your mother was and still is a lunch aide, right?
Really?
Yeah, she is.
And so you
my
know this
God.
firsthand that they now have gourmet food, whereas we
Yes.
have toxic waste.
We had toxic waste, but you know what I did enjoy? I always liked that good humor bars that you could
Oh,
buy, like
Me
the
too.
chocolate eclair or the strawberry shortcake. That was amazing. That made lunch special.
Toasted almond was the other part
Oh
of
yeah,
that.
that's
trio.
right.
Kind of the blueberry of that trio. Less
Mm.
popular, but still good. So
Yeah.
I have to say this really a fourth wall breaking moment here when Vicky starts making the lunch. They say do it on the double. She speeds up. The audience laughs.
Yeah.
Now that was obviously done in post. How are they laughing?
Well, any of the special effects they recorded separately on separate days with not a live studio audience.
Thursday morning, and those were
Yes.
fraught mornings, according to what I read about this.
Everybody said that, yeah.
If I could be a fly on the wall, I'd be like, I'm going to leave.
I have to say that episode was very painful to watch without even knowing how dark it was going to get. I was already like, oh, this is hard to watch.
The weird thing is, it held my interest.
Really?
Yeah.
It definitely did, yeah.
And
I
I've
agree.
now watched it 4 times, which is insane, considering that I'll die someday.
Wow. I hated it.
The one thing you didn't mention about Vicky though, she doesn't understand figures of speech.
Oh,
She
yeah.
misinterprets that.
She, whatever comedy archetype that is, that's what she is.
I think it's borrowed from Amelia Bedelia, if you remember those books
It's-
from.
it is the same thing as the guy from Guardians of the Galaxy, played by Dave Bautista.
Oh, that's true as well.
What?
Like someone who takes everything literally. Like the joke is they take everything literally.
Oh, yeah.
I remember one joke from Small Wonder where the mom tells Vicky to separate the laundry,
Mhm.
and she separates it by tearing it in half. So that was like the joke that she didn't. Yeah.
All right, so we've established the B story is the dad is doing momly duties, but the A story, which is very weird,
Mhm.
is that the son, played by Jamie, the son,
Jerry
the son
Super.
who's, wait, hold on, let's start that all over.
Okay, go.
The son, whose name is Jamie, played by
Jerry Superin.
yes, and now Poe, did you know that Jerry Superin is now a full-time volunteer at a homeless shelter, which I think just means homeless.
Does that mean he's homeless?
Yeah, that just means homeless. But back then, in this episode, he had to win a journalism contest in order to get a position on the elementary school newspaper.
Oh,
Which is very weird. I don't know if you noticed that element.
no.
They had to win the contest to get a job on the paper.
They didn't make it seem like any other kid entered into that contest. It was just Jamie and his friend Reggie.
Well, in general, the world is very underpopulated. Were you ever on a school newspaper?
No. I was on yearbook instead.
Oh, okay.
Also, I went to a very small private art school, so there was no paper in high school.
I was on the newspaper, but I quit it. I quit it in a rage because I had written a review of the film. I was the film reviewer. I wrote a review of the movie Lord of the Flies, the 1990 remake.
Love it.
And I said that the title has to be just Lord of the Rings, a review. No, not Lord of the Rings. I said the title has to be Lord of the Flies, a review. And I had a line in there that said, "This ain't no Gilligan's Island." And then they made that the title, which, I should have been like, cool, that'd probably push more people towards this review. But instead, I completely melted down and wrote a letter to the editor and was like, "How dare you change my work?"
Oh, wow. So you've been like this for a while.
Yeah.
Who was the editor? Like Mr. Marconi?
Wow, you guys went to high school together.
And elementary school.
Wow.
Yeah.
I first met Rusty in my basement when he was crying.
What?
I don't remember that, but I'm not going to.
No. I don't think I've ever told it.
So Rusty's a ghost.
Yes. Well, I started a club to fight ghosts called the Monster Squad because I was afraid of this.
Another movie.
I was afraid of this face in my basement. So I got a gang of kids together, and then we were giving out the weapons. Rusty had been brought by a mutual friend. I had never really interacted with him, but I thought he was kind of a cutie. And when he didn't get the bow and arrow he wanted, he burst into tears. And we all had to be like, "It's okay, Rusty. It's okay. You can have the bow and arrow."
Oh, good move.
I was clearly meant for that bow and arrow.
And my axe.
All right. So then we come to the next thing.
Oh god.
This is a very limited universe.
I think we're like delaying the horribleness of the episode.
No, but they delay it. That's the thing. They
That's
delay
true.
it.
They really do.
So we end up in the classroom. This is, I think, the only other location.
Yeah.
And this scene opens with Jamie saying, "Reggie, old buddy, we're going to win this journal." And I'm like, no kid has ever said old buddy to anybody. Then the principal comes in and he said, the teacher says, "What can I do for our illustrious principal?"
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "Well, first you can stop polishing the apple." And the weirdest thing is there's no laugh in this moment. Anyone notice this weird moment?
Well, first you can stop polishing the apple.
Yeah, they really short sold the principal on all his lines.
And he's there to introduce a new student, Chrissy Ryan.
Well, the principal introduces Chrissy to the class and asks if anybody wants to help her assimilate. And all the guys raise their hand because they have an instant crush on her.
Yeah.
But the mom, for some reason, Jamie and Vicky's mom is the teacher, and she has Vicky pretty much prep. What's her name? Chrissy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They couldn't afford to hire another actress.
Well,
No.
exactly.
Yeah.
Do you know that I'm such not a pedo that when all the boys volunteered, I didn't even know what they're volunteering for. I was like, why are they so eager? I thought they were just being nice. Then I was like, oh wait, no, they have a crush
She
on
was
her.
the quintessential girl.
She
She's super
was.
blonde.
I mean, as an 80s kid, I would have found her oh my God, yeah.
I was shocked.
I have a question for both of you. I don't think you were, Ed, but Poe, were you ever the new kid in school?
No. Born and raised New York, went to the same school all my life. But no one could ever pronounce my name. So whenever there was a new teacher, I felt like the new kid because everyone was like, what? How? What is it? What are you? And then my last name is so ethnic that they were like, no, I don't like it. I don't like you. So I did feel very ostracized.
How do you pronounce your full name? Pauline?
It's kind God, here we go. Identity crisis. Well, so my mom made up the spelling. And it's a name that I guess is Swiss that she heard.
Curveball.
Yeah. What? She tells me that I should pronounce it Pauline, but who the freak wants to go around sounding like a weird snob telling people Pauline? But also in Portuguese, everyone says Pauline. So I never really ever heard anybody in my whole family call me Pauline. But then someone randomly called me Poe, and I was like, hey, I like that. And it's easy and nobody, and so it's been Poe for years.
Wow. We've only got 4 letters between us.
Yeah, wow.
And they spelled dope.
The end. We're done.
Okay, wait. Before we leave this scene, one of the greatest moments in this episode. Mm-hmm. So when Chrissy sits down, Jamie introduces himself as Vicky's brother. And then Reggie jumps in and says,
I'm not her brother. I'm just a brother.
Like, his whole gimmick is that he's like a black kid. And there's kind of, if you notice on the laugh track, it was kind of like a rolling laugh here where you can see people getting it. They're like, brother, black. Okay, I like it. I like it.
You know what I want to know, though?
What?
That Vicky, now they explained Vicky's relation to the family, that she was an orphan because her parents were killed in a car accident and they adopted her. Mm-hmm. So she's, I guess, supposed to be the same age as Jamie.
Hi, I'm Jamie.
But we mentioned about her wearing the same dress. Wouldn't the kids be somewhat alarmed or at least tease her for that? Like, especially in elementary school, you do anything that's a bit different, you're getting teased. And she's wearing the same dress every day.
I didn't even remember her ever going to school before I saw this episode. I was like, why would they enroll her in school?
Yeah, it's like
keep her in the house.
It's like enrolling Alf in school. Yeah. You're going to give the secret away pretty quickly. You know they're going to understand subtlety.
I think in the earlier episodes, didn't they keep her in like in a box?
Am I living in a box? Am I living in a cardboard box?
Mm-hmm.
Like in Jamie's room? She was just in like a closet or something.
I really don't remember her being in the outside world ever.
I think the neighbors became suspicious.
Oh.
And they tried to like humanize her more. I think I think in one episode, seriously, I think that the father gave her like an upgrade to make it.
Have either of you ever seen the show What a Dummy with Stephen Dorff?
No.
No.
It's a very similar show, but it was about this family had like a talking ventriloquist dummy, which was like a very creepy, and he's just like always commenting on things like, oh, there we go again. But like they ran, it was possessed. Yeah. They ran out of storylines for this dummy. It's kind of like what happens in all these shows. And so it's just like a normal sitcom with like a dummy in the middle of it just being like, I hope he passes the test. It's like Harry and the Hendersons. Harry would just be like, I'm just standing over here.
With small wonder, I don't think they planned for 4 seasons because they had to explain her growing.
Mm-hmm.
So the father gave her like another upgrade. Like he super stretched her to explain why she was getting taller.
We just don't have the time to watch all these episodes.
No. But also, I wanted to say this was a Saturday show.
Yes.
I feel like Saturday shows occupied a very unique space in my psyche. You know,
did either of you watch this growing up, like religiously?
Oh, big time.
Yes.
I loved it, and I feel like for some reason it was like a little irregular. Like sometimes it wouldn't be on. It's like when it was on, it was like the gift from heaven.
I think anything that had a sort of weird element to it that was sci-fi-ish, we really latched on to.
Mm.
Yeah.
I did. I was
no, I like the we. I was like, oh, we knew each other.
Ed, I have to ask, did you have a big crush on Vicky?
Not at all.
Ew.
Humans only.
I feel like you might have had a crush on Jamie.
Hi, I'm Jamie.
Oh, get the fuck out of here.
When I put the episode on and I wasn't looking at it, I was just kind of hearing it, and it's starts with Jamie at the breakfast table being like, and I was like, oh God, who? I don't remember like anybody on the show sounding like that.
I thought it was one of those YouTube videos that was sped up to avoid copyright, but then I just realized it was his voice.
Wow, yeah, it was horrific. I hated him so much.
Yeah,
I think I hated him when I was young too.
Yeah, I think I did as well.
I did as well. But I was very much into Vicky as a kid.
Hi.
You know what's really creepy? When I got my first computer and like internet became a thing, one of the first things I did, I looked up Tiffany Brissett to see what she looked like now.
Interesting.
Wow.
And I have a fun fact for you though. This is all over the place. This is very chaotic for a first episode, but
great.
The actress that played Chrissy, she voiced Sally Brown in a Charlie Brown episode called "You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown."
Oh, seen it recently.
Have you?
When I was going through my Christmas depression. Charlie Brown.
I think I watched it too. Wow. Fantastic. Let's get to the weirdness of this episode.
We're not there yet, Poe.
Oh, God.
Because in the next scene, we have a very 80s moment. Chrissy needs to catch up. And she tells the her delivery on this line, maybe I have to see it 4 times to really be bothered by this, but her delivery on the line about how she can speed read to the mom
Oh my
is
God.
so awkward.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be easy for me to catch up. I can speed read. Oh, that's wonderful.
Rusty, this seems like something you'd lie about as a child. The ability to speed read.
Probably. I lied about a lot.
Is speed reading even real?
Yes.
Of course.
It was a huge thing when we were growing up. They would have people on like Regis, and there was a guy that could speed read. There was that Micro Machines guy who could
Yeah.
talk fast.
Well, yeah.
Like there was all this like weird,
Ed, but shame on you because there was actually like infomercials to speed read where you could like read a page in a second. Like,
Oh, no,
you could
I was-
look at the page.
Oh, yeah, that's
I always
right.
fantasized about learning how, but I just never took that step. So Chrissy is going to stay for dinner originally, and then she's not going to stay for dinner. It's just like such
Well,
a
she
point
calls her
where-
dad. She calls her dad to ask for permission.
That
makes sense. That one's on you for not picking that one up.
Yeah. No, I got that. I was just like, why even use that? But remember staying at people's houses for dinner?
Oh, I loved it.
That was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
My
great.
parents were horrific cooks. I actually had to go to the doctor. This is not even a joke. I had to go to the doctor because I was so emaciated as a child.
No.
Yeah. And the doctor was like, "You've got to eat." And I was like, "I can't." And he's like, "Why can't you eat?" And I was like, "The food they're making is gross." And my mother was like, "What are you talking about? He's making up stories." And I was like, "The chicken cutlets are green."
You're insulting them and you're embarrassing me. Eat it.
Eat it.
I guess the next big thing to mention is that I can't even explain this horse meat thing. How did that happen again, Rusty?
Chrissy, when she's hanging out with Vicky, makes a joke.
They had to put saddles on those hamburgers. They've got to be made with horse meat. Horse meat.
Oh yeah, she says
It's like, it's
those
gross.
those burgers should have saddles on them. I was like, that's such
Yeah.
a weird. No kid would ever.
What?
And then Vicky then retells that.
Yeah, to Reggie and Jamie who are in the
Right.
kitchen.
Right.
And
But
here's a very curious. Wait, Rusty, what?
I was just going to say, because Jamie takes that as fact. Like, he's just like, oh, Vicky said this, so it's fact. But shouldn't he be the first one to know that Vicky gets everything mixed up?
That's a
I
really
think
good
he
point.
literally said, she can't lie.
She's not built that way. Okay.
Wait, but before they get this horse meat story, the only story they have, now this is a little Easter egg, Poe. Mine's gonna explode when you hear this. They say that Bobby Herbeck had a pimple. Can't tell you where. I was like, what the fuck does that even mean?
On his
Like,
ass.
where would that be? His dick, his butt? I don't know. And anyway, Bobby Herbeck was actually the writer of this episode, giving himself a little shout out there.
Oh.
He would later go on to write the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, which was such a hit, but then he never worked after that again. Who knows?
That pimple took him
That
down.
pimple.
But at that dinner, when they're setting up dinner, when Ted, is it Ted, the father, that asks Chrissy if she wants to stay? Or the mom, whoever.
Yeah.
But when they ask Reggie if he wants to stay, did you pick up on the line that he flubbed?
Yeah, he says
Oh,
he says, I just, like, the dad says he's cooking,
Mhm.
and then Reggie says, I just remember, but he says it like in a really weird, he like misses a word.
Was that the best take that he could get?
That was the
I did
alternate
not
title for this show.
notice.
Just remember.
Hey, Reg, you want to stay for dinner?
Sure, thanks.
Great, I'm cooking.
I just remembered my mom needs me.
Wait, but this is also the moment where they have the episode veers wildly, where the parents start telling them about Watergate and about Woodward and Bernstein.
Yeah, they didn't know they didn't even know who Nixon was.
Well, and then Reggie
No, they
makes
did.
his joke about a basketball player named Nixon who's like lost to history, and the way he grins at the parents and it's like mugging for the camera after that. Man, I wanted a time machine. They're like, "Why do you want this time machine?" I'm like, "I got to go slap one child in the year 1985."
But they were making him do the black man dance thing. Where it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, look, I'm just a fun.
well, then,
But then he knew who Nixon was.
yeah,
He
exactly.
was like, I'm just kidding.
And then it's just weird. That is how all these episodes are like. You say things and then just don't matter. Which is
Right.
like, then
Yeah.
why do you say them? And then Reggie also says that he's not right to be the Bernstein character of this duo, hitting that
Right. The
Yeah.
Jew.
black thing
Jew?
again.
Oh, yeah. But then, but also then a weird Jew thing, right? I don't know. So
Yeah.
it's like-
Well, he just means like no one's going to mistake
Right.
me for a Jew.
Right.
But I feel like no kid would really even get that
Yeah.
joke.
Much like the episode delaying the point, we're not getting to the darkness of this episode. I just
No,
want to bring up.
still not there.
I just want to bring up.
This is where they should have introduced it in this scene because they have like milk out. They should have seen the milk carton then.
Yeah.
I just want to bring up one other scene that's so hammy. When the father is talking about, or when the father's doing the laundry and he's showing the wife her clothing and he thinks it's Vicky's and it's all shrunk. But when he shows Jamie his shirt,
My favorite shirt!
and he like freaks out, he's like, "No, my favorite shirt," and he holds up this like tiny little shirt. Did you see what it said?
What did it say? I love Jamie or something?
It says, "Jamie, I love you." What kid that's like 12 years old would wear a shirt that says, "Jamie, I love you"?
Shrinking clothes. Shrinking clothes were such a thing in the 80s. That was like every sitcom. Clothes were shrinking left and right.
So let's get to it. Let's
All right.
drop the bomb. I want to drop this bomb.
Drop it then.
Well, okay.
I thought Poe was going to drop the
So,
bomb.
all right. So we're back. You know, the dad has shrank the clothes. This is actually our commercial break is that the teacher, who's also the mom, assigns them to read all the President's Men over the weekend, which was like one of the least believable things about the episode. I was like, these kids aren't going to read. They're going to.
They didn't even seem bummed about it because they knew they weren't doing it.
And then we come back from the commercial, and Chrissy shows up. She comes to apologize about the whole horse meat incident, and Vicky is making a milk peanut butter and sardine sandwich. In the 80s, they loved sardines and anchovy jokes. That was big. That's what we had before the internet. But so she goes to get milk to make this even grosser. And getting the milk is just an excuse for her to notice that Chrissy is on the milk carton. She's a missing child.
No, I'm not. I'm right here. You may be right here, but you're missing. Oh, no. That is me. Why am I in a milk carton?
And then she runs out. First of all, this is 16 minutes into a 21-minute episode.
Yeah.
If either of you were on a milk carton that you found that you were missing, would your reaction be the same as Chrissy's?
Such relief.
Oh my god! I mean, yeah, she was just like, I have to go call my dad. I have to talk to my dad about this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She runs off, and then Vicky tells them about the missing child.
How does she have no memories of her mother?
Yeah, it seem like this just happened?
Yeah.
Well, I guess maybe what I inferred was that the dad said, you know, oh, I'm just taking you away for a while. Mom's over there like he made up some believable lie of whatever mom's doing, probably.
Can you imagine?
Oh, I guess.
I was just gonna say, can you imagine being like, I don't know, all the stress of raising a kid, but you've also like kidnapped them? That seems like a lot to deal with.
But we don't know the story though. What if the mom was like a horrible alcoholic that like abused her?
Yeah, great point.
Like, how do we know the dad's really the villain? Maybe that was his only option because the courts
are always the villain.
Yeah, Poe, did I tell you that Rusty's a men's rights activist?
Oh, are you an incel, Rusty?
No, I'm the incel.
Oh, yeah.
That's the twist. There's actually a moment of good writing coming up. I've got to say.
Oh boy. Go on.
The way that these storylines intersect, I think, is actually kind of good, because now we cut to the evening, and the dad, he's ordering takeout, which he pass off as his own. This is another thing that happened in every 80s sitcom.
Such a doubtfire.
And to remove the evidence, he gives the guy the garbage bag of stuff. He gives the delivery guy all the takeout materials and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
Except that the milk carton with the picture was also in there. So now we see the A story and the B story unite in just a great way.
So you think that's the only reason they made him cook throughout the whole thing, so that he could dispose of?
I have no idea.
No reason for it.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Okay.
I think they probably had like on the board. It was like, oh, what about the dad doing chores around the home?
But we're forgetting the scene before that.
Go on.
Of Jamie and Reggie like deciding this is their big story.
Oh yeah. This is their big story.
Yeah.
How do I not have that written down?
I don't know.
You know the worst part of when, I don't know if we're at this part yet, but when they're trying to explain to the parents that she's a missing girl, and Jamie grabs the fresh milk carton out of the fridge, and it's a different kid.
Yeah, and that's supposed to be a joke.
There she is.
Carla? Carlos Ramirez, age 3.5.
Good luck, buddy. All right, so now we've been introduced to the plot at minute 17.
Insane.
And we're back in the classroom. Chrissy is not there. Right. Jamie has a useless moment where he says, don't worry, the bell hasn't rung yet. And the bell rings and he says, now we can worry. Like,
what
why? Like another stupid thing for no reason. Then Reggie and Jamie, this is so dumb. Reggie and Jamie get called into the hallway by the principal. The principal demands proof. Yeah. How are they writing this story about the girl? How do they know this? The dad, who doesn't even work at this fucking school,
shows up
running in.
Yeah.
And
right on cue,
explains the whole plot line and then shows them a milk carton just so they know that it's all okay.
You know what the really funny part about that is, though? The father explains like steps that he took to find out about Chrissy. He like called the number and confirmed that she's missing. He finds out that her father abducted her after a custody battle. He called the police, and then the principal is like, I still need to see some proof. So it's like the father just did all this work, finds out everything, and he still needed to see that milk carton as if that was the concrete evidence.
Well, and yet Reggie's reaction is like, yeah, now we win the prize.
Exactly. But reproducing a milk carton with someone's photo on it as like a fake thing would have cost like $90,000 back then. So it is good proof.
You know what the funny thing is, like when Reggie, like you're saying, Reggie was like celebrating that they won the prize. He says, oh, like your dad came through in the end, and Jamie's like makes a comment about his dad.
Yeah.
And then the principal's like, they all have a moment to laugh at that joke that Jamie makes.
Way to go, Mr. Lawson. You've got it here. Hey, my dad's got it all over.
I actually found that joke really creepy because it was like, he said something like, wow, Jamie, your dad's got it up here. And he goes, my dad's got it up over there. Like, what? You got the hots for your dad? What's happening? What is that? It's so weird.
The principal loved it. He was laughing.
So then we cut to the final scene. And everyone is a little depressed. We got to give them some credit. They were a little depressed in this scene. They've won the contest, but at what cost?
But Dad bakes them a like very ugly cake.
Yeah, the dad has baked them a cake, but they still feel bad even with that cake. The dad can't even believe it. He's like, I can't believe this is not cheering you up.
But the story's still not resolved, and there's a minute left, so they gotta wrap this up.
Exactly. You're like, I was like, maybe there's a part 2. You know, this is like to be continued. Instead, a phone call comes. And not since Rosemary's Baby has there been a more unrealistic phone call. Like, you know, when she fakes the phone call in the phone booth where she's like, oh, hello. Hey. Oh, like the dad is like, what's that? Oh, she's all fine. Oh, great. Okay, great.
It was shorter than that.
Hey, this is Ted Lawson. Yes? That's great news. Thank you very much for calling. Terrific news, everyone.
And the dad basically did the same exact thing in the previous scene.
Yeah.
So this actor must have been like, Jesus, man. Like, isn't there a better way to get this across? Look at all this wasted space earlier in the episode.
So yeah. So what
and
do?
And then they get their face smashed into the cake. Jamie and Reggie.
Jamie says, "Now I feel like burying my face in a piece of cake."
Yep.
Which he never should have. I mean, he should know better than to say it in front of this. Jamie would be dead by now. She would have basically every day found a way to like.
Jamie's like, I really wish I could go for a swim. He's drowning.
You know what I imagine?
What?
When this was first airing, like somebody that did abduct their child and was just like trying to make them comfortable, be like, oh, let's watch an episode of Small Wonder. And this is like the episode that comes on. They're just sweating bullets watching it with their kid. Like,
and especially in the 80s, they were like, oh, so many sitcoms are about abduction. But I'm 17 minutes into this episode.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Did you like watching this?
No, I found it really hard to watch. I don't know. Maybe it was because I used to love the show so much and I was just really disappointed. I think a lot of it centered around my hatred for Jamie.
Hi, I'm Jamie.
But
he fell in hard times.
Well, Rusty, what are your opinions, feelings?
I mean, the episode was good because it's so creepy, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and especially because a lot of the stuff Ed and I revisited from the 80s is unbearable to watch.
Yeah.
And this really held my attention. And the quality is good on YouTube.
Yeah, the quality's great,
yeah.
Dude. Fucking 4K. I could see her circuitry.